I'm asking them to stop the killing. Because let's say 7th of October, worst day ever. Okay. How many people are you going to continue to kill in order to get your revenge? Because it seems that you will not be able to eradicate Hamas. As a matter of fact, you can kill 100,000 people today. What you have created is 100,000 Hamas killers. No, this has never, Israel tried it before 2004 and it failed 2006 and failed 2009 and failed 2012, 2014. And every time Israel came in and they killed many people as possible and they came back. The solution for this is not more killing, more war. I know people like war solves everything. You will not be able to solve everything with war. The whole idea about this is to justice. If there's land to be given back, give back the land. If there is agreement to be done, do the agreement and sit together, because believe me, whatever cost you think is too high giving up land, it will not come close to the cost of human lives that we are losing every life, whether on the Jewish side or the Muslim side or the Israeli side or the Arab side.
Well said, Bassem. Welcome back to Z's Political Couch, everyone. Bassem hits the nail on the head. More killing won't solve the problem. It'll only create more enemies. Israel's repeated military campaigns have failed to eradicate Hamas and only fuel more hatred. Adam doesn't address this. He deflects with historical tidbits, ignoring the fact that violence isn't the solution. Adam fails to counter this because deep down, you'll see, he knows it's true. In the end, Bassem's message is clear. Real peace requires justice, not just military power. Let's jump into it.
So how do you get rid of Hamas?
Get rid of the reasons that created Hamas.
Which is what?
The horrible living conditions, the blockade, putting people in prison, not allowing people to get their own destiny. If you do that in any more, listen, Israel could have been founded in Uganda, which, by the way, the British government gave the Jews 8,000 acres, and then they said no, to 1903. If Israel wanted to go to Uganda, you can have an Uganda Hamas. If you make people and put them in the lands of other people, there are already 2 million people that are already there, and then you just push them around, you will have resistance. Right? And the thing is, Hamas wasn't there since 1984. Hamas was created in 1987. Until 1987, Israel killed 100,000 Palestinians since 1948. It's not about the PLO, because Israel took Israel in 1948. The PLO was created in 1964. These are all a result of what Israel has been doing.
Why do you mention Uganda? Because the British proposed that the Jews should move to Africa and Uganda. Pull up Uganda on a map, just so we're clear. What does that have to do with anything?
What I'm saying is before the Israeli were the Jews were transported to Palestine.
You know, right after that whole, World War II Holocaust genocide thing.
Before.
Yeah.
Before.
During that time.
No, before. Okay. I'm talking about 1882.
Mm-hmm. When the Zionist movement started.
Exactly, 1882. Gotcha. At that time, there were only 3% of Jews living in Palestine. Mm-hmm. And they were different. They said Argentina, they said Chile, Madagascar, South Africa, and Uganda. In 1903, the British government offered the Jewish people about 80,000 acres in Uganda. Mm-hmm. And they said no. And the reason that they said no, so there's, what you don't know, there was a big, this is very interesting, there was a big conflict between the rabbis and the secular Jewish movement. So the rabbis said, we cannot go, the rabbis were the one who actually objected, said, we cannot go to Palestine. It's what do you mean? It's the promised land. It's yes, it's the promised land when the real Jesus comes. So the secular said, well, maybe we should go to Palestine and that will invite real Jesus to come. It was a whole, by the way, this is all in Theodore Herzl memoirs. You can read about that. And even 1903, Theodore Herzl, in page 96, in the pamphlet for the Jewish state, he said, maybe the Jewish people should just get what they can. So what I'm saying is these were discussions at the end of the 19th century and the 20th century. And then there's the movement that wanted to put the the Jewish people in Israel actually won, and it happened very, 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 very slowly. By 1914, there were about 7% of Jewish people in Palestine. Now, when the Balfour Declaration happened, the only one who rejected the Balfour Declaration of like putting Jews in Palestine was a Jewish British businessman in the parliament and said like those people are British people and we should not put them into another place. I'm just giving you the historical.
You're giving us the history. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I get it. But I doubt the Jews were like, yo, Uganda, let's do it. No, they wanted Israel. But what do you do? What do you do at this point?
I'm sorry. I'll have to disagree with you, sir, because you have to understand many of those Jews, they came from pogroms from Ukraine and from Russia.
Yeah.
And then when they went to London, they were really treated bad, and they were called the problem. The problem. We need the solution. We need the solution. And this is why when Hitler came to power, he said we need the final solution.
Of course.
So you understand all of these problems happened between the Jews coming from Eastern Europe when they went to England and Western Europe. So basically, the British people didn't like them and they want to push them off. So by the way, I mean, we can joke about that, but seriously, the whole thing about Madagascar, South Africa, Chile, and Argentina, and Uganda, these were real discussions with real budgets.
I'm very familiar with the Zionist movement. I get it.
Of course you are.
And then at a certain time, so 1914, 7%, and then the Balfour Declaration, and then the First World War, nothing happened. Second World War with the Nazis were like maybe kicking and killing everybody.
Yeah.
And then they started to go in mass in Palestine.
But are you sensing a common theme here? They go to a country, they have success, let's kill them. They go to a country, they have success, let's kill them. They started in Egypt, they went to Spain, they went to Morocco, they went to Europe, they went to pogroms in Russia. Can I speak? Can I speak? I'll answer your question.
This is not accurate.
Of course this is accurate.
Sir, this is not accurate.
What's not accurate of what I just said? The whole reason that I say that is that they've been running around the entire world.
Sir.
It's called the Jewish diaspora. I'm speaking. I'll let you speak. You could speak for a half hour. I'm asking you a 2-minute question. There's a Jewish diaspora. They're running all over the world. It culminates in the Bolshevik Revolution. Zionism, it starts Theodor Herzl. It ends in the final solution in Germany. The Jewish people said, listen, we just need a state. You look at the map of the Middle East, it's as big as this room. We have a little tiny microphone. And then we're fighting over the size of this microphone when you have the entire room right here. So tell me, what should Israel do now? Does Israel have a right to exist and defend itself or no?
So can I answer? I'd answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
So first of all, certain things that you said in that monologue was a little bit inaccurate. Yes, they were treated badly in Europe. They were treated badly everywhere. And they were not treated badly in Spain because that was under the Arab rules.
Of course they were. It was called the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes,
Look it up. Yes.
Sir. The Spanish Inquisitions was done by the Christians against Muslims and Jews together.
Okay.
Muslims and Jews were sitting together.
But it happened is what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is, before the Spanish Inquisition, Jews lived in the courts as ministers and as poets and as scientists under the Arab rule in Andalusia. When the Spanish Inquisition came in, they killed both Jews and both Muslims. So,
the Crusades, we all know how that story goes between Christians and Muslims for decades and centuries.
And you understand that the first crusade did not kill a single Muslim?
Okay, but the third and the fourth and the fifth one did.
What happened with the first crusade?
Enlighten me.
The first crusade came out from England and they killed 2,000 Jews in Europe. They didn't even make it to Jerusalem. This is how bad the Jews were treated by the Christian Europeans. And as a matter of fact, the Jews did not find refuge unless they found it in the Arab countries. I'm not saying that they were perfect, but if you compared what the Jews were enduring in Ukraine and Russia and in Western Europe and how they lived in Baghdad and Egypt and Morocco, they were much better.
But this validates the whole point of why the Jews need Israel, because every country they go to, they're going to be run out of town or killed. At the very least, they have their own country, so they could say, at least we have safety here. Every country, every story that you just mentioned, Bassem, is them being killed by somebody, whether it's the Christians, whether it's the Brits, whether it's the Ukrainians, whether it's the Russians. The whole point of Israel is like, we can no longer just rely on other people's niceties and empathy to not be murdered.
Okay.
So now we need a state of our own. You understand that?
I understand. Let me continue.
Yes or no?
So all through these years, they were living peacefully, relatively under the Arab rule. And then what happened? The pogroms in Russia and Ukraine pushed them to England. Then England said, we cannot take them anymore, push them more to the Arabs. At the time, Jewish people in the Arab world, especially Egypt, were living. The first people who actually did the cinema and the theater were Jewish Egyptian people who lived there all their lives. Jews, Christians, and Muslims were living. Right now, the department store, like our version of Macy's and Target, they all have Jewish names because they have part of the fabric of the Egyptian society for decades, way before the Jews from Europe came. Now, when the Jews from Europe came, there's two ways to come. You can come easily or you can come by force. They started to come with all of these ships, and then you have the Haganah, and you have all of the Zionist gangs who started to come into Palestine, and they were like 1.5 million Palestinians that you cannot erase. So the fact that this is the Arab world, you can go anywhere. No, because this is their country. So they went in, they replaced them, and then we had the 1948, and the rest is history. Now, having said that, do I want Israel to be erased and I want people to go back to Europe? I will never use that kind of argument unless that you tell me, well, why don't the Palestinians go to Arab countries? If you don't use that, I'm not going to use that. I believe that Israel is a matter of fact. And I think it's too late to come and erase or get people out, whatever. What we have to do, either a one-state solution that everybody, Palestinian and Israeli, have exactly the same equal right, and all of them have the same passport, and they live in peace. And the other reason is a two-state solution. Obviously, so far, Netanyahu and other Israeli officials have said many times there will never be a Palestinian state, not in the West Bank, not in Gaza, ever. And these are official statements by them. So they have already said that. Sometimes people accuse Arabs, but we do not want the state of Israel. They say we don't want a state for Palestine. So you have this. As long as you think that this is your land only, and those Palestinians are indispensable and they can go other places, you will never have peace.
They've had the Oslo Accords. They've had the Abraham Accords. At what point does Israel say, I can't negotiate with these people? Hamas is charting a founding charter says we call for the destruction of Israel. In order to make peace or to make a deal, you need to have someone on the other side that is willing to at least come to the table. The closest that come was Yasser Arafat, the PLO, under Clinton, 1998. He came back. They gave him 98% of what he wanted. He came back. They said no. Would Israel, listen, Israel's just like America. It's a democracy. In a democracy, you have a free exchange of ideas. The Marjorie Taylor Greens that you mentioned are wildly different from the AOCs, but policy is different from rhetoric. The policy of the PLO, of Hamas, of Fatah is essentially destroy Israel. There's no two-state solution.
No.
The rhetoric.
Hamas is different from Fatah. Fatah is different from the authority because there's nothing in the charter of Fatah or the
the point that I'm getting at is all these political factions. No one wants to come to the table, do a deal. And here's what's happening.
Neither does the Israel.
Because they're getting worse and worse. They gave them 98% of what they want.
Sir, have you seen?
They had a good hand a few decades ago.
Sir,
now they have no hand. You have no leverage now. That's the problem.
Sir, have you seen the video by Netanyahu who's bragging about spoiling the Oslo Accord on his own?
I've seen the video. Yeah.
He said like I'm going to destroy it. We're going to hit them. Nobody's going to do that anymore. This is the guy. And by the way, just a little bit of thing. The Oslo Accord, it was signed by Yasser Arafat from one side and from Isaac Rabin from the other side. What happened to Isaac Rabin?
He got assassinated by a Jew.
Whom?
By a Jew.
Okay. And
by a far right radical Jew. Because he was a moderate.
Who was a part of what part? That's Jew. What kind of organization was he part of?
He was on the far right party where
it is the same organization where Ben Gvir, the head of the national security now, is a minister under Netanyahu.
Yeah, newsflash. Every country that's a democracy has a left wing and a right wing.
But I don't think every country has at least two terrorist people as ministers, because Ben Gvir was arrested on the account of killing Ishaq Rabin. As a matter of fact, there's a very famous video for him where he got the emblem of his car 2 months before Isaac Rabin's like, we've got your car, next we got you, 2 months later, Isaac Rabin. This is the kind of government that you are defending. It is a terrorist government that kills its own people. Even Bitzalim, who is the Minister of Finance, he was arrested because he was going there by 600 liters of gasoline to blow up an Israeli highway. This is the kind of criminals who kill people, Gaza everywhere, and I find it very difficult to find somebody actually to defend their actions.
Are you saying that Israel is the only country in the Middle East that has a thug-like regime?
Oh, no, not at all. But
Okay, so this is pretty common for that neighborhood.
But you know what's the difference? I
Yeah.
don't see any other country in the regime saying I'm a democratic secular country and I have Western values.
Well, according to the World Index, World Economic Index, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. This isn't our opinion.
Exactly.
Look
It's
it
the
up.
only democracy
Exactly.
which
But
would have terrorist people in this government, which I find it very interesting.
Here's the problem that I'm having with you. Is that I
have a
actually
problem with me?
No, with your argument.
With me?
Well, you've already called me racist. If you,
I'm a very nice person.
I think you are a nice person.
I'm very nice.
I think you're nice.
I never called you racist. I called your argument racist.
multiple times, but it's all
He
good.
said undertone. He didn't call
I
it
said it's a racist undertone. Thank you so much. It's a racist undertone.
Thank you.
Bassem, if you look at the chat, you've probably been the nicest to me today, so we're cool. So the problem that I have with you is that either you're anti-Israel or you're just intellectually lazy.
And I'd like to add, Adam, you're intellectually inept, but not lazy. All right, folks, let's break it down. First, Adam dodges the key point that violence hasn't worked for Israel. As Bassem rightly says, more killing just breeds more enemies. Adam conveniently ignores this and goes off on a tangent about history like it's some sort of get out of jail free card. Yeah, sure, Adam, let's focus on the past 200 years instead of the here and now, where Israel's military strategies keep failing miserably that's viewed globally. Then there's his whole Israel the only democracy in the Middle East shtick. Oh really? Israel's the only shining example of democracy, and let's just gloss over the fact that they've had far-right radicals in power for ages. But hey, maybe that's the democracy you get when your ministers are on video bragging about spoiling peace accords and casually making threats to kill political leaders. Real shining beacon of peace and freedom, huh? And don't get me started on the solution he's offering. He dances around the idea of Israel's right to exist, but throws in a sure, let's talk peace, while ignoring the facts that Israel's already shut down two-state talks and made it clear they've never let Palestinians have a state, with Trump greenlighting a full-fledged assault on West Bank today. You can't claim you're all about peace when you've made sure there's no space for it, but let's not forget how he discredits Bassem's points without ever addressing the real issue, Israel's land grab and military violence. Instead, he distracts with some random historical references and completely skips over the uncomfortable realities of today. In the end, Adam's argument is a mess of contradictions. He stands behind Israel's right to exist but refuses to acknowledge the brutal consequences of their occupation. He's quick to call out terrorism from others but doesn't seem to mind when it's Israel doing the bombing. If that's democracy, maybe the Middle East needs a new dictionary. But hey, at least Bassem's keeping it real. From a factual point, if Israel's going to survive, it better face its past and stop ignoring the injustice it's been dealing out for decades. Maybe then, and only then, we'll actually get somewhere. Until then, Adam, keep dodging the real questions and hope no one notices. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of mine. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one. This is Z checking out.